Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to welcome you all to a webinar in sharing effective practice in developing pupil leadership in primary schools. It's really encouraging to see so many practitioners have joined the webinar today. My name is Jim Hammond and I'm joined by my colleague Elaine Gallagher. We are both in the primary inspectors in the primary inspection team. This afternoon you will have the opportunity to hear from staff from 2 schools that we've recently inspected. An early warning, we will ask you to complete a post-evaluation questionnaire at the end of the session. There will be a QR code at the end of the webinar that will allow you to access this evaluation. We would really appreciate if you would take the time to do this. It will help us improve our importance to sharing effective practice. There will be a reminder at the end also. I'd like to begin this afternoon by welcoming Jill Ritchie, Strategic Director with His Majesty's Inspectorate, to open our webinar this afternoon by sharing a few messages about effective practice.
Hello everyone, I'm Jill Ritchie, Strategic Director for HMIE, and I'm delighted to introduce this session dedicated to sharing highly effective practice. As inspectors, we support improvement and provide assurance on the quality and improvement in Scottish education in order to promote the highest standards of learning, leading to better outcomes for all learners. As an inspectorate, we're really keen to share practice to support improvement across the system. There is clearly an appetite for this, as today's session is full, with 500 of you from across Scotland registering for this webinar, which is really great to see. Inspectors are privileged to observe exceptional work happening in schools, services and settings across the country, work that goes well beyond expectations and truly makes a meaningful difference to the lives of children and young people. Your efforts are transforming lives and inspiring future generations, and that impact cannot be overstated. We are so grateful to see these moments and even more grateful to be able to share them with you. This session not only celebrates these highly effective practice examples, but also invites you to reflect on your own approaches and think about areas where you might enhance or evolve. It's a chance to consider how these shared insights might resonate with you and enrich your work. And if something here sparks your interest or aligns with your goals, I would encourage you to reach out and connect with other schools and settings. These connections are invaluable and can foster partnerships, learning and collaboration. With a heartfelt thank you to the schools and settings that have generously worked with us to capture and share their practice, we'll move into practical examples now. We are hearing about learning from improvement journeys of Tinto Primary School, South Lanarkshire, and Callander Primary School in Stirling. We are excited to share their stories with you. Enjoy this session and don't forget to explore our additional examples of highly effective practice on our website. Together, let's continue inspiring one another and driving improvement across Scottish education.
Thank you very much, Jill. As Jill said, as school inspectors, we have the privilege of visiting schools all around Scotland. During our visits, we have the opportunity to talk to children and stakeholders about pupil leadership within early years and across all primary stages in primary schools. Where it is successful, we have seen some common themes begin to emerge. And these include developing collaborative approaches to school improvement and children's leadership. And this fosters a shared sense of purpose and strong community and ownership. It creates meaningful opportunities for children to develop leadership skills that can be developed through participation in school committees and with clearly identified roles. This encourages confidence and a sense of responsibility with children. There are well-established systems that monitor and reflect on children's achievements in and out of school, and this supports children to gain a deeper understanding of their own personal achievements and allows them to make links to their skills for learning, life and work. Pupil ownership of their learning is enhanced when children understand the criteria for success in their learning, and there are regular opportunities for self and peer assessment in lessons. And when children take an active role in school improvement, they are empowered to lead and influence change. This helps foster a culture of collaboration where everybody is invested in the school's success. I will now hand over to my colleague, Elaine.
Thank you, Jim. So folks, today we're going to hear from 2 schools. we've recently inspected and highlighted as having effective practice in pupil leadership. They're going to share their pupil leadership's journey this afternoon. We hope that this will support you in developing practices within your own establishment. You can reflect on your current situation and context, and this may inspire you in planning the next steps for your own school. You might also find it helpful reflecting on these challenge questions from Higgius 4 as you listen to the presentations this afternoon. How well are children confidently engaged in reviewing their own learning and the work of the school? In what ways do we involve all children in self-evaluation and planning for improvement? To what extent do all learners play an active role in the school and wider community and regularly take on leadership roles, including leading learning? How well are we involving children in making decisions about their well-being, their lives and their future? What opportunities do we provide for children to engage in critical and creative thinking that helps increase their capacity to respond and adapt to change? And how do we empower children to have a say in the quality of learning experiences and how to improve? We'd like to welcome first Alex Stark, Head Teacher at Tinto Primary School in South Lanarkshire Council. In Tinto Primary School, children's voice in influencing and leading change is a significant strength of the school. Alex and her team ensure that children across the school lead meaningful change within their school and community. Thank you, Alex.
Here you can see Tinto Primary. Just thought I'd start. We're a lovely new build, just been in 8 years, and you can see there the back and front of our school. And then we have a lovely effect in the autumn and spring of the sun coming through, and the children just absolutely love the rainbow hall, as they call it. I just thought it'd be a nice picture to start off with. The school context. We're a rural school, got 117 children in the primary. We live in the village of Symington, but we also take in from the villages round about, Thankerton and Pitnane. Many of our children are bused in. Our SIMD is 5 to 8. We've only got 11 children on free school meals. About 40% of our children are on the stage intervention pathway. Our learning community consists of 12 primaries, and we all feed into Bigger High School. 3 of the schools are standalone, and the rest are shared headships. So we've got 8 heads altogether, and we work together really closely. As you can see, we've taken the UNCRC articles 12 and 13, which talk about every child being free to express their own thoughts and opinions and to access information and to have their views considered and taken seriously. And we've also taken into account the National Improvement Framework, which highlights the importance of children's rights at being the centre of everything we do, which obviously encompasses the right to have their voice heard. So I thought we'd just sort of go through the school year. At the start of each school year, we have a number of systems in place to support pupil voice. For the P7 pupils, they would say their most important bit is the election to be house captain. So we build on a skills framework, a very robust process that includes the children completing an application form as they would if they're going for a job. That's scored by the class teacher. They have an interview with our young leaders of learning, which is scored by myself. And then the children across the school vote for who they think would make the best house captain. The 4 scores are collated and then the successful candidates announced. Their remit is to support the children in the house, to celebrate achievements. They design and maintain a house point display. They run competitions. They award the house point certificates at assembly, and they represent the school in the community. And the remit is actually developed over the years as each cohort adds to the job. Also at the start of the school year, we've got other P7 leadership roles, the ones that are listed on the slide. Aid to camps are a Tinto job. The children last year said it was actually Miss Stark's slaves, but they're actually my right-hand people. They help me set up assemblies, they give out Stars of the Week awards, they manage the IT in assemblies because that's not my strong point, and they're on hand all the time to help me with school defence. The class charters are an important part of our pupil voice, as these set out the type of classroom the children want to learn in, and it gives a framework for all the children to adhere to and a frame of reference if some individuals act in a way that goes against the agreement. Some of the displays we had up when HMIE were here. So we had our pupil voice, our young leaders of learning, right to respect in school, and digital awards displays. Each term, we involve the children in the evaluation of the school improvement priorities. Their comments are taken from their class Jamboard and added to our school improvement plan display in the shared area. And this then becomes a learning wall over the year and details changes made as a result of their evaluations. On the evaluation Jamboard, the children's voice is put alongside support staff, nursery and primary teacher voice so that they can see that their voice is as important as the adults in the school and that they have a shared space alongside all the adults. And that's one of our improvement plan displays. It changes every year. This year we seem to have a steam train with various stations representing the terms. Also each term, the children have to evaluate their learning experiences as part of the overall evaluations that the teachers do. The children's voices are recorded on the teachers' evaluations, and they talk about the teaching methods, their learning style, the resources the teachers had selected or they'd selected, and their overall learning experiences. And they also have pupil portfolios where they set individual targets related to selected curriculum areas each term, and they evaluate their progress towards their target at the end of each term. These are on the Google slides, and we've got digital pupil portfolios so that the parents can also access them at home. These are discussed with the teacher, and we can see as part of our journey that the children's evaluative language has become stronger and better over the years that we've been doing this. We also have P4 to 7 committees. We've had them running for many years, and the context has usually been led by the improvement plan in the past. So last year we worked on getting our Right to Respect in School Silver, we got a Read School Gold and a Digital School Award. But this year the pupils, and to be honest the staff, wanted a more relaxed approach. The pupils said they didn't like being told what they had to do by an award scheme. So they wanted to have a charity committee, an outdoor committee, and an equalities and diversity committee. And on top of that, we also have our young leaders of learning. So our young leaders of learning, that was the group that the inspectors picked up on when we were inspected and that they liked. So we engaged in this initiative in 2023. Our principal teacher at the time was extremely enthusiastic about this and had attended Education Scotland training sessions. And she went on to be a trainer for South Lanarkshire Council and also trained all the children in our learning community. And we were partnered with a school in Lark Hall, so quite different to ours in an urban setting. And again, the children had to apply for the role and explain why they would be good young leaders of learning, and we selected them from P4 to 7. We looked at theme 2, learning and teaching, and the context was outdoor learning because that was part of our improvement plan and it was also part of new fields. The children used How Good Is Our School to structure their evaluations, and they did an audit of the outdoor learning as it currently stood in the school. They visited each class as outdoor learning was taking place, and they also went into the nursery. So they saw a variety of approaches. They liked the nursery because they had free choice, but they also had zoned areas and there was free flow, and they liked their garden area and their mud kitchen. They liked primary 1, 2 and 6, 7 because they worked together, and the older children came and supported the younger ones, and they also had a rotation of activities and did lots of group work. And then our primary 2, 3s and 4, 5s, they had a focus on maths and social subjects outdoors. So they quite liked the curriculum approach as well. We then went over to Newlands, and Newlands came to us, and we shared ideas from each other. When Newlands came to us to look at our outdoor learning, it was to see if they could make any suggestions for improvement and if they saw the same good practice that our young leaders of learning had seen. So we explained to them it was almost like a moderation exercise, and that was important. There is a YouTube, we're not going to watch it today, but there is a YouTube link that you can just go onto YouTube and type in Young Leaders of Learning visits, and you will see the photos of all the activities that they took place in. So the feedback from Newfield was that they liked the outdoor learning that they'd seen and that everyone was joining in. They liked how big and fun the playground was and playing with children they didn't know. And they said they would take back to their own school P1s and P7s working together, and also doing lots more teamwork activities when they went back to Newfield to support better communication and peer group relationships. Our children then went over to Newfield, and they liked that they had a football pitch-sized mugger at Newfield. They liked that Newfield was a bigger school and had a separate gym hall and canteen, and for some reason were rather taken with the yellow trays for meals. But these were all things that we couldn't do at Tinto, and they knew that, but they just wanted to point out that Newfield had these things. But what they did take back from Newfield was that the P1s there used their nursery garden, but there was a bit more free choice in their outdoor lessons and more working with other classes, and that they had a mud kitchen, whereas at Tinto we just had one for the nursery. So that was something that they wanted us to change when they came back. And that's just photos of the children from Tinto and Newfield participating together in an outdoor lesson. So the other thing that they identified they would like, they wanted to have a quiet space in the playground. So they worked with our principal teacher, who was very good at getting grants, and they managed to get a grant from our wind farm, and they contacted the South Lanarkshire Landscape Department and worked with them to plan a sensory garden, and they're involved in all aspects of this. They supported the grant writing, the rationale, and 1 year later we actually had the official opening, and here's some photos of our lovely sensory garden, and Newfield Primary School came along to look at what we've done. The following year we were paired with a school in our own learning community, and part of that was budget because it was quite expensive going up and down to Hamilton, so it was just easier to be in one of our other schools, and we were paired with Blackmount. And Blackmount and all the schools in our learning community were looking at skill development. South Lanarkshire Council had revamped their skills framework, and so that was on the improvement plan for all of us. And they went to Blackmount to see what they were doing, and they had a skills SAM, and they liked that. So they've come back to school and they introduced a Steve skill to our school, which the inspectors liked. And I have to say, Skills Steve doesn't look like this anymore. This year's Young Leaders of Learning decided he needed a makeover. So he's now there with shades and an earring. So he's quite cool. And he's been called Skills and Suggestion Steve. And I'll explain why he's had a bit of a name change as well afterwards. They introduced Skills Steve to the school in an assembly and said that on the left-hand side each week, there'd be 2 skills that the children had to look out for over the next week, and anytime they saw any of us, adults or children, displaying any of these skills, they would get a post-it note and they would put it up around Skills Steve to show that the skills were being used throughout the school. So I was quite pleased because when they had listening and talking up, somebody put a post-it up to say that I had spoken quite well in assembly. This year, the children have chosen to work on diversity and equality with another school in our learning community. They want to look at what resources the other school are using and discuss how we can embed those into our curriculum. They're also going to work with active schools because they did a little audit and felt that active schools, when they came in, did a lot of ball activities like football and bench ball and netball, and they felt that not everyone liked those games and it wasn't very inclusive. So they're actually working with our active schools coordinator to come up with some different activities for lunchtime clubs and after school clubs that don't necessarily involve a ball. So we need to see how that's going to go. The nursery class, they had as an improvement priority to improve their pupil voice in the nursery. They visited other nurseries to see how they were doing pupil voice and recognising it. And by the end of the session, they were talking about their rights and they were able to recognise that they were empowered to make decisions about how they learnt. And I know that's one of the questions that's going to come up at the end, so I'm not going to talk in great detail about that at the moment. But we are maintaining it, and we have raised the profile of pupil voice, and they have a big floor book where they write right in any time they feel that they've been empowered to make a change. And they also go around and they take photos of their own activities that they want to share with parents, and then they ask one of their nursery staff just to log on to learning journals and upload it with them. But they decide what they want to put on the learning journals and what learning they want to showcase to the parents. We also involve all the children in making decisions about how we spend our PEF money. It's not a huge amount. We have about £8,000 a year, and the children have become much more skilled at this over the years. We've moved away from suggestions that include trips abroad and a swimming pool to more realistic targets such as transport for events, more in IT, and more out-of-school experiences, more trips. Last year's suggestions also included hand dryers in the pupil bathrooms, as they felt that's more sustainable than paper towels. So whilst this isn't a PEF-related issue, we are now looking at the cost of that. And I know you can't see it very well, but there was a little girl who'd written down that we should all go out for dinner together for a night out, because it would impact positively on our health and well-being. So the staff really liked that one. We also do emotion check-ins, nursery to P7. So pupil voice is obviously there right from the word go. They come in, once they've taken the coats and bags off, they go and they do the emotion check-in. Each class has got its own method of doing it, but it gives a quick visual to the staff to show any children that might just need a bit of TLC or a bit of time with one of the support assistants. Because the other thing that we did have is a pupil run drop-in nook. So anyone who just feels that they just want a bit of time and space can go to the nook, and they'll get a bit of support from other pupils. And there's usually a support assistant there as well to lend a hand should it be needed. We have really good links to in the local community, and pupil voice has led to quite a few changes for us. Just this term, we had some of the children came back from Scouts and said that they'd had a talk from one of our locals who goes to Ukraine with resources once a month, and they wanted to do something from the school. So this time they donated 18 rucksacks filled with trotters, stationery and confectionery, and the parents donated toiletries and schools. So that came directly from the children. We also have the biscuits and banter group in the village. And some of the children had links to that and asked could we get involved with it. They now go down, the nursery go down and play tabletop games. We go down at Christmas and sing, and we invite them to all the events that we have in school. We have an extremely active football club in the village, which needed lots of upgrading. So the last 2 years, the football club and the village community have been applying for grants, and the children have been involved in that. They wrote letters. They've made a big floor book explaining why they want the football club to be upgraded. And the house captain sent a video to one of the, I think it was Sport Scotland, and it's actually had a huge impact. We've had 2 huge new muggers built over the road, just across the road from the school, and the football club building is being knocked down on Monday and a new building built. And we know from the feedback from the funders that pupil voice swung it in some instances and helped raise the money. Last session as a school, we did a lot of work on looking at racism and what it was. It's quite a challenging area for us because we have nobody from different cultures or ethnic backgrounds in our school, 100% white children. So to make that meaningful was quite a challenge, but the children really came on board with it and went on to discuss anti-racism as opposed to racism. And then a small group made anti-racist posters and took them to the community council to ask them to go up on their notice boards because they knew that their voice mattered and that they could make a difference. Although achieving awards for pupil voice isn't the primary purpose for putting pupil voice at the heart of our school, the children really did enjoy getting these awards. So we did receive the Respect Me Award for our anti-bullying work, which the children worked with me in completing the forms. And we got a bronze UNCRC and are just about to submit for the silver. South Lanarkshire Council also do attachment awards, and we were really pleased to get our pupil voice recognised. These children went along to a conference, pupil-led conference, and they set up the stall and they spoke to other schools and staff about the work that we do at Tinto to hear their voice. And then, of course, we had the HMIE inspection, which recognised the role of the children in influencing and leading change in the school as a significant strength, which is why I was on today. And as you can see there, they mentioned Skill Steve. They were quite taken with Skill Steve. Our next steps, we looked at the play pedagogy we've been doing in P1 and 2, and we spoke to the children as they moved up to P3 and 4, and they wanted more pupil-led learning activities. So the staff have all signed up this year for inquiry approach learning, and we're halfway through the training for that. So hopefully that will bring more children's voice into our learning activities. And the staff were quite happy because they've all moved stages and they wanted to develop alternative teaching and learning strategy too. So the staff voice and the pupil voice have led to us to look at inquiry skills this session. We're also going to look at the Education Scotland Youth Voice Toolkit and the 7 golden rules of participation to ensure best practice in our committees, because we've sort of got in a rut, we think, with how we run our committees. And then this document came out and it's going to give us a little scaffold to see how we could improve pupil voice going further. So it's a continuing journey. We're not resting on our laurels. We're still looking at how we can make things better. But we know that our pupils will ensure their voices will continue to be heard and that they'll continue to lead change. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Alex. That was a really insightful presentation that you've given us this afternoon, and lots to think about there. I'm sure you'll all agree. We would now like to welcome Tanya Starkey, who is head teacher at Callander Primary School in Stirling Council. In Callander Primary School, all children are involved in a wide range of leadership groups. This is helping them to develop important leadership skills, such as communication and cooperation. The work of these groups has a positive impact on the life and work of the school. Thank you, Tanya. I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me along this afternoon. So I'm going to take you through the types of approaches that we have undertaken here at Callander Primary School. So Callander, as some of you may know, is a rural town in the heart of the Loch Lomond and Trossachs National Park. We are the largest primary school within our learning community, but there are 11 primary schools in total. Callander Primary is also part of a shared headship with one of the other rural schools within McLaren Learning Community, Strathire Primary School. We also have a nursery class, and we also have a specialist provision here at Callander as well. Our SIMD data is that we are deciles 5 to 10, but we are supporting families from a wide range of backgrounds, including the families that perhaps live in the outlying villages and outlying farms, as well as in the town itself. And as alongside our specialist provision, we also have children that travel in from other towns and villages nearby as well. And as always the case with rural communities, at times we do then have to support or look to support families regarding the kind of rural poverty aspects of our school community and the challenges that we have around the connectivity, digital and transport difficulties as well for our families as well. Approximately 35% of our children are on staged intervention here at Callander as well. So at Callander Primary School, we have over the last couple of years had a really significant focus on skills and looking at the skills implementation within all aspects of school life. And similar to Tinto's, Alex's presentation for Tinto Primary School, there are some similarities with the types of approaches that we have here at Callander. For example, we also have the house captains in place here at Callander. We have sports ambassadors who take the lead on organising different sporting events for children across the school, and we also operate and plan with the children their own child-led clubs, where they're leading and developing clubs of their own and inviting their peers along to attend them at lunch times. We've also been significantly supported over the years by our amazing parent council, who have also recently worked with the children to plan events such as the discos and the spring fair events as well. So we have those in place as part of our approach. But what I wanted to share with you this afternoon was kind of 4 key areas that we have in place here that shines a light on the different aspects of that we have towards pupil leadership and children and taking ownership of various aspects of school life. So as I say, we've been focusing on the skills. And in particular, we have been looking at the Skills Development Scotland's approach to meta skills. So across the whole school, the children have become more and more confident over the last couple of years of really focusing in on those meta skills and being able to apply their knowledge of those skills into life situations where they're making change within the primary school. So the first thing I wanted to just talk to you or share with you is our approach to young leaders of learning. So similar to Tinto's experience, we took on this initiative a couple of years ago, and we were matched up with some other schools within Stirling, one being another rural school and one being one of the urban schools. And we undertook a variety of activities where the children visited the schools and took feedback from each other, and that certainly helped to develop some aspects of learning for us and leadership going forward. But following the kind of first year of that experience for us, I wanted to kind of have a look at how we could have a bit of a strategic approach to our young leaders of learning. So we were using the How Good Is Our School document to kind of give us a focus, looking at the different themes, learning and teaching, relationships, and so on and so forth. And then what we decided to do, the deputy head at the time looked at this a little bit more closely and thought, well, actually, if we're going to have this group of young leaders of learning, it would be quite helpful if we could develop a kind of approach and give them a kind of plan of action, as it were, to help them lead forward or take forward some of the initiatives that they wanted to take forward. The biggest sort of aspect to this approach, our young leaders of learning, and also aspects of our school parliament, which I'll talk about later, is that each year we invite the children to take part in a pupil questionnaire. And once we've received all of the responses from the pupil questionnaire, it's the young leaders of learning that then analyse the results of that pupil questionnaire. So they'll look at the results that the children have fed back through that, and through that, the analysis with one of our principal teachers, they then identify aspects of school life that they want to be able to focus on and perhaps look at changing or developing the following session. And our young leaders of learning have really focused on the Higgius theme of our learning and teaching over the last couple of years. So they have been looking at the data from the questionnaires and really been focusing on the questions that have concentrated more perhaps on classroom life and the aspects of the learning and teaching experiences that they have within their classrooms. So the young leaders of learning take that data, and then, as I say, they identify different aspects to take forward, and then they use the strategy that's there up on the screen, or that action plan, to kind of help either develop or gather further evidence, or to look at other groups in school that can help them develop initiatives as they have identified from the pupil questionnaire. So far, our young leaders of learning have used the questionnaire to help them develop different aspects of classroom life. So the first thing they did was look at what would make an excellent lesson. So they have created a charter using ideas from the children themselves across the school, and produced an infographic that's displaying key aspects that they decided, along with the staff as well, what would make an excellent lesson, and that's shared with all classes across the school. So that was the first project that they did. And then the following year, when they looked at the next set of data from the pupil questionnaire, they noticed that the children were saying that sometimes it can be tricky to learn in an environment where perhaps sometimes there's some distractions, or somebody's needing a bit of extra support in order to be regulated within the classroom. So the young leaders of learning then also looked at producing an infographic or a poster for the classrooms, giving them ideas on how they can create a calm classroom within their own spaces. Another really interesting aspect that we've undertaken with the young leaders is around the quality assurance aspect. So they have been involved in quality assuring with the other schools as part of the young leaders project. But they have also more recently been involved in doing some quality assurance in Callander, in our own school. And they've been involved in looking at jotters and doing a bit of evidence and jotter monitoring within the classes, and then providing some feedback to the classes around comparing the evidence that they've gathered with perhaps our policies on literacy or numeracy or our presentation policies, and providing some feedback. The other thing that our young leaders are doing this year as well is that they're about to undertake some learning walks with our principal teacher as well. So they're going to be engaging with children during the school day in their classrooms, and doing a little bit of quality assurance around the classroom environments based on the staff's own audits, using the Circle framework to support that work as well. We know with that aspect there that our next step is around going, back and looking at the jotters and looking at the evidence that the children gave feedback on last year, or later on this year going back into the classrooms and doing that little bit of joining up of whether the feedback was taken on board or whether classes were able to act on the feedback they were given. But that was received really positively by the classes and the staff across the school. The young leaders of learning have also been involved in evaluating progress within our school improvement plan, but I'll be coming back to that a little bit later. So our next steps for our young leaders of learning is to lead learning around equity and diversity. Similar to Tinto, we don't have a hugely diverse community within our school here, so we're looking at how we can expand the children's awareness and understanding of that diversity. And so our young leaders of learning are taking the lead on that through assemblies and other such activities across the school year. And that's just some photos of the kind of posters that the children have produced and the visits that we made to other schools as part of the quality assurance processes. So the other aspect that we have in school is our school parliament. And for a number of years, we've had a school parliament, but always found that it was quite tricky to get the children to really focus on meaningful change within the school. And similarly, we would quite often get things like we would want a swimming pool or a roller coaster on the field, and things that were not possible. So we were trying to kind of find ways of engaging the children and affecting real change within the school. So our principal teacher has taken the lead on this, and she has done some work with talking to other colleagues in other schools and pulling together a whole variety of different approaches to school parliament, and has kind of come up with this kind of approach, which we're finding is particularly effective at the moment. So the school parliament itself is made up of representatives from each class, and whenever we have a school parliament meeting, those children change. So across the year, different children get the opportunity to attend the kind of official school parliament meetings. But before those school parliament meetings take place, what we do on a monthly basis is we have a class council. And from the pupil questionnaire that I mentioned earlier, the school parliament look at the data that isn't perhaps more classroom based, but perhaps more life and ethos of the school based. And they identify themes from that the classes then discuss as part of their class council. So each month they take a theme, they focus on that and have a class discussion, and then each class comes up with ideas about how we can support that theme within our school. And then at the school council, the class reps then come from each class, and at the school parliament, the class reps come from each class, and they share their ideas that were developed within the class councils, and then the school parliament at that time then decides which ones are going to be the ideas that we can take forward. So far we have found that a really effective way of running school parliament. So at the moment, our school parliament has obviously used the data and the information from the class councils, and they have then developed ideas around how to make wet playtimes more enjoyable for the children. Perhaps they've looked at the dining hall, lunch hall experience here, and how they can make that, or how they can make changes to that. And they've also helped support looking at approaches to supporting positive relationships as part of our work that we did around anti-bullying. So one of the aspects that the school parliament took forward is the little B on the screen there, the Be Kind Award, and that came from the positive approaches, and the children felt that they wanted to be able to identify classes in school that had been going out of their way to particularly role model positive relationships or support each other outside in the playground or in the classrooms, and for the children to be awarded the Be Kind Award. So the children have helped put that plan in place. And the other image there was just, again, ideas around indoor breaks and ideas for the children to follow there. The other aspect that we have is around our kind of pupil groups. So at Callander, we've had this in place for a number of years, and we call them our citizenship groups. And this involves every child in the school, and we normally have around 11 citizenship groups in place. And each group has a combination of P1 to P7 children within each group. The citizenship groups meet once a month. And over the last couple of years, what we've developed is the approach that each group needs to have a focus that either impacts positively on school life or within the local community or beyond. And each group at the beginning of the year plans with the teacher what they want to focus on for that year. And then they create a plan with the teacher. And then as the year progresses, they then self-assess their progress using a traffic light system during the year so that they can keep on track with their aims for the year for that group. The groups that we have will be familiar to all of you, I'm sure, but there we have first aid, we've got an eco, we use citizenship for our social justice ambassadors, our inclusion ambassadors, fundraising, digital leaders, reading ambassadors, road safety. This last year we had our Callander action team, which was the team that is working with the local trust housing care home, and they're the team that have gone in to organise Christmas parties and organised Easter gifts and things for the community within that care home as well. And then this year, previously we've had a school newspaper, but this year we're going to have a go at doing a school podcast. So the children, as I say, plan their aims with their teachers for that year, and within the citizenship groups, because it's P1 to 7, it's the opportunities there that it gives the older children particularly to really take the lead and support the younger learners within each of those projects. And then we share progress with the citizenship groups through school events. We might have parents coming in to take part in different initiatives. I've mentioned the trust housing there, and a reciprocal relationship with the trust housing is that they were, really pleased that we've developed this relationship. So they did some fundraising with a coffee morning for us as well. So that was a lovely thing to be part of as well. Sharing progress with parents through social media and platforms as well about the kinds of things that we've been doing. And although our citizenship groups haven't been the sole source of the evidence for us achieving a variety of awards, they certainly have contributed to the evidence that we've gathered for the Reading Schools Award, the Green Flag, the Digital Schools Wellbeing Awards, and the Gold Sports Awards. So the citizenship groups for us here at Callander are a really important aspect of school life. Is just a new initiative that another school in Stirling had shared, and I was really taken with this initiative and wanted to give it a try here at Callander. So this was around a group called the Curriculum Ambassadors, and this is where a group of senior pupils, so P6s and 7s, apply for the role. And then they undertake some learning from the support for learning teacher who trains the children on supporting skills of paired reading, fine motor skills and phonics. And then those children are then given a group of younger learners to support for 2 or 3 sessions each week during our morning soft start that we have each day. The class teachers provide the resources and the activities for the senior pupils to participate in. But it's the curriculum ambassadors that then take those activities and support the younger learners with. And what we've found there is that because it's pupils supporting pupils and a bit of peer support, that the curriculum ambassadors are noticing a really a high level of engagement from the young learners. So based on that, the curriculum ambassadors are also doing a little bit of peer assessment of the children that they support using the Leuven scale. And they're just recording some data around the participation and engagement of the learners that they're supporting, and they feed back that to the class teachers. So we started that last year and we're continuing that again this year, but we have found again that's been a really effective way of allowing the children to kind of lead aspects of learning within the school. And then for us at Callander here, our next steps, as I said already, is really focusing on increasing awareness of diversity within our own community and beyond, with our young leaders taking the lead on that. Further developing our understanding of skills and meta skills across the curriculum. And then we are also looking at developing approaches to project-based learning this year with the staff to kind of look at greater ways of getting the children engaged in leading the actual learning, particularly within IDL within the classes this year. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tanya, for sharing your journey of pupil leadership in your school. I'm sure we'll agree, lots of exciting things to think about there and lots of information. Thank you. So folks, I hope you've enjoyed all enjoyed listening to both presentations this afternoon. When signing up for the webinar, we asked you if you had one question you'd like considered for discussion during the webinar. Thank you so much for sending these in. We really were inundated with questions, which was fantastic. And I hope many of the questions have been answered during the presentations this afternoon. We've selected 4 to ask Tanya and Alex. So Alex, we're going to start with you. The first question that we're going to hopefully discuss is how to facilitate pupil voice in nursery and school more effectively, and how can we adapt methodology to support early years to engage in pupil leadership activities?
Okay, I've sort of focused more on the early years bit because I felt that the presentation already has discussed how we facilitate pupil voice in nursery and school, but I absolutely got why people are asking, well, how do you then take that down to 3 and 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds? So we've used the UNCRC rights to scaffold the pupil voice in the nursery and talk to the children about their right to play and their right to have a voice. We've started off the home nursery link. The children's commissioner sent out books about children's rights, and Storm the Alien has been sent home to all our children in the nursery, and then they pick a different right to explore at home with the parents each week. So the children and the staff sort of talk about that. The children also have agency from the minute they come in. So they come in and they decide what they're having for lunch and where they want to eat their lunch, if they want to have it with the rest of the school or do they want to have it in the nursery. They also choose when they want to have snack and what they want to have for snack and if they want to help with snack. And they also choose when they want to go outside. So all the actual activities that they're doing, they're getting choice with that. They're interested in form the planning, so they almost co-construct the learning activities they're going to do. Some of them have asked to be health and safety ambassadors. We've got a little rota for that. So they support the nursery staff with risk assessments. So if they've got something new outside, like we've got new trikes, they help with the risk assessment, make sure you've got your helmet on, and they help do visuals and things. And they take it in turns to almost police that to make sure that everyone's doing what they should be doing. Also, we've got some of the children that are really up on Samoa, and they will tell you all about that. And if they see a child trying to leave the nursery to get in the cloakroom, they'll shout Samoa and then get them back and explain to them they're not allowed to go out without an adult and why that is. And they've also got My Learning, My Voice board, which has got photographs of all the different areas in the nursery, inside and outside. And they can come and ask the early years workers to come and write on it, how they were an effective contributor or a successful learner, or just what they enjoyed in that activity. And the other thing they do is they've all got access to little iPads, and they can go and take photos of whatever they've been doing. And then they go to their early years key worker and they say, I want this to go up on my learning journal so I can tell whoever I live with about it when I get home. So they're sort of picking the learning activities that have been meaningful for them. And they're very aware of their agency in their own learning. So I think that's how we sort of do it. They've also got their big floor book, their big rights respecting school floor book, and they write in that and put photos and pictures in whenever they want. So it's just out all the time, and they know it's there for them to record their pupil voice activities in it. And that's what we're doing in the nursery at the moment. And then they join in school things. We've got We Are Remarkable board for the whole school, and the nursery children choose if they want their work to go up on that. And they take it along to the P7 pupils who run it and ask for it to go up and explain why they are remarkable and why it should go up. And then the P7s just type a little story underneath it to explain why that's up there. So that's how we've been doing it in the nursery at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alex. Tanya, over to you now. How can class teachers support pupil voice alongside curriculum delivery?
Okay, so there's different approaches that we have that teachers plan for within the classroom. So similar to what Alex mentioned earlier in her presentation. So we first of all have the class charters in place based around the children's rights. And at that point, very early on in the school session, the children are then establishing the expectations of learning within the classroom and what they would like to see from each other and what they would like to see from their class teacher. So that kind of forms the foundation of that kind of collaborative approach of the children being able to share their thoughts and expectations with each other and the class teacher. But then within sort of actual sort of delivery or planning of lessons and activities within the class, the teachers will obviously share the learning intention with the children, but then will support the children in co-constructing the success criteria together. And we're seeing that happening with more and more confidence from the children over the last couple of years. So the children there are sort of taking the ownership and being able to show an understanding of how they're of the learning taking place within the classroom, and then the actual activities or actual tasks that the children have. We have a child chosen activities approach within Callander. So whenever the teacher is providing the tasks for the children to do, there is an element of challenge and support within that, and the children can choose the activities that they want to attempt to have to undertake within the class. And that might look like, on a practical basis, like chili challenge or star challenge. But obviously that is supported by the class teacher, who is making sure that they are accessing the right level of challenge. And that's something that we've really been focusing on this session as well. And then the teachers are then allowing the children to decide how they are going to present their learning as the final piece, written or a poster or a piece of drama or a film. So again, children and staff are becoming more confident around allowing that freedom within the curriculum. And then at sort of the cycle of that kind of planning and developing next steps, we have set aside time within our week, within our curriculum, for learner dialogue. So the children are regularly meeting with the teachers and having discussions about their learning. The children are identifying their next steps with the teachers and identifying their targets and that they're working alongside. And they're either displayed in the classroom for the children to access, or perhaps they're in their jotters for the children to refer to. But that's an ongoing, regular dialogue that they have with their teacher. And then, as I said earlier in my presentation, we're looking at the project-based learning, inquiry-based learning approach And that will naturally allow the children to start leading the aspects of IDL or directing the learning in the direction that they are interested in. And then where there is opportunities for group work, we are focusing on using the kind of critical skills approach, where the children all have roles within that, so that they again are all taking the lead or having a purpose within the group work. So they're all the kind of things that we're doing to kind of support that within the kind of daily sort of delivery of the curriculum within the classrooms.
Great, Tanya. Thank you for that. Alex, it's back to you. More of a practical question. Just really, have you got any advice on the management of groups and roles and keeping them live throughout the year?
We make sure that each of the groups has got a couple of adults to support them. So every support assistant class teacher has got the role of facilitator in each of the groups. So that just keeps them on track, if you like. We timetable everything. So we've got a yearly calendar, and everything's written into that yearly calendar, so that keeps us on track as well, so we don't forget things. And the pupils have got access to that, so they keep us on track as well. The house captains know that we've got an inter-house sports coming up next week, and they've been reminding us that we need to get that organised. We've also got timelines, so the pupils keep to those. So we've got weekly tasks that all the pupil leaders have got to do, like running the assemblies at the start of the week. So they manage that themselves, and occasionally I'll go and remind them, but you don't usually need to. They're usually reminding you that assembly is coming, and have you got everything ready for it? We've got it in our quality assurance calendars as well, you know, for the children to be involved in the evaluations and the targets. So it's written in there in the policy documents. It's written in our relationship policy, the term evaluations and the script and the classroom observations and the Charters observations that they're all involved in. It's all written in our quality assurance. So that keeps it live and meaningful for the whole school community. And they've got very strong remits. So we sit with the children and do their remits, so they know what their role is, and they stick to it. So they tend to keep it live, to be honest. You know, we have it all written down, but sometimes we get taken over by other things. But because it's such an important thing for them, they manage it and they keep us right. So it's about keeping the timetabling going and protected time. You know, we make sure that if we're overwhelmed with something or we've got staff absences, that doesn't drop off the conveyor belt. You know, we don't say, we'll not bother having committees this week, or we'll not bother having assembly, we'll not bother doing real remarkable tasks. That's protected, and it's their remit, and they do it. And they also reminded me, I did an interview yesterday for a new principal teacher, and the house captains came and gave me some questions that they thought I should ask, because it would be their principal teacher. So they keep it live as well. And we did use one of the questions, they were quite good. So,
Thank you. Great, Alex. Thank you so much. And Tanya, final question back to you. How do you evidence children's voice within your school improvement plan and your standards and quality report?
So certainly, we've done this through a couple of different approaches over the years. The first approach that we had was we had a group of children who worked alongside a group of parents, and they were evaluating and looking at the school improvement plan throughout the year, and discussing together from a pupil's perspective and a parent's perspective where they felt the progress, how well the progress was going, or areas that they felt that we haven't quite got to yet within the improvement plan. And that was done alongside the staff, obviously evaluating progress as we went through the year. And that was a really effective way of getting that kind of whole school community voice, helping either shape or evaluate the progress in the improvement plan, or starting to shape the next steps of progress for us. And interestingly, since COVID, we've found it trickier to find parents that are available to come in, just because work situations have changed. So we've kind of adapted our approach now, and so last couple of years, the young leaders of learning have kind of taken that that role on, and we've asked them to look at. We have a display in school of the progress of the school improvement plan. And so they have kind of taken ownership of that, and they have decided that they wanted last year to use a traffic light grading system, and that they would come along and look at the display and highlight aspects of the improvement plan that had been achieved, or were making good progress, or that we hadn't started yet, or that we needed to have we think about. So we've kind of done it a couple of different ways, and then obviously within the when we've got the feedback from those sessions in our standards and quality report, that's obviously feeding into our next steps, which then obviously feeds into the following school improvement plan. So we haven't found the perfect solution, and we've had to adapt it to different conditions that have risen up for us within our community, but that's certainly the ways that we've taken forward so far.
Great, thank you again. Thank you very much, Tanya. I'm now going to hand back over to my colleague Jim for a final thank you.
Okay, well, that's us reached to the end of the session for this afternoon. I hope you found this session interesting, thought-provoking, reassuring and helpful. I certainly have lots of practical advice, lots of depth around what we said and heard on how to foster that pupil leadership across the school. Please continue to monitor our social media platforms for future webinars that feature the other areas of highly effective practice. There is more to come. As highlighted at the start, we would encourage everyone to complete today's evaluation survey, which can be found by clicking on the QR code on the screen. Finally, I'd like to take the opportunity again to thank Jill, our Strategic Director, for setting the scene for us today. And of course, a huge thank you to our keynote speakers this afternoon, Tanya Starkey of Callander and Alex Stark of Tinto Primary Schools. It's been an absolute pleasure and privilege working with them to develop this webinar. They were throwing this ball very early on in the school term and didn't blink at any point. They just got on with it and produced really helpful materials to share their practice from our schools. Just before we depart, I'll bring Jill in for a final word.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. I just want to echo your words and say thank you so much to everybody for attending, and particular thanks to the two schools who presented for us today. Absolutely fascinating listening to you, and really, really rich input, and lots of work going on in these settings. So fantastic to hear about that. I was really particularly struck thinking about meta skills and the implementation of that skills framework. I'd be really interested to have a conversation with the school around which meta skills were particularly challenging, which ones moved forward at pace, and where they've still got work to do, but really, really interested in both. Thank you so much to everybody for attending.
Okay, and just to echo Jill's thanks for all coming along this afternoon, and we hope you have an enjoyable October break when it comes along for you. Thanks, everyone.